just went on vacation for a week, and prior to leaving, I stopped by my local used bookstore, which, in my opinion, is the greatest retail outlet that a neighborhood can have, to pick up a sultry beach read, and I landed on Kurt Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions. You might think, hey, Vonnegut is a serious author who does not write beach reads, but you are wrong. To me, the perfect beach read is easily readable. I don't have a lot of vocabulary to look up. The plot is pretty straightforward, and I'm not totally thrown off if I'm occasionally interrupted by a volleyball bouncing over my feet. Vonnegut is perfect because he satisfies all of those requirements while also being remarkably poignant and thought-provoking, and so on. Anyway, I mention this because one theme of Breakfast of Champions is about the inherent value of art and art's ultimate impact on humanity and on the way we think. In the book, there's another book. Oh God, it's like a fractal, which it's going to be in my next video. It scarred me to make it. Anyway, there's a book in the book written by Kilgore Trout that is the trigger for another character to go off the deep end. After he reads it, he goes on a violent rampage. And I'm thinking of all that, not just because I recently finished the book and I'm still thinking about it, but also because I just happened across this recent related study. In Entertaining Beliefs in Economic Mobility, researchers found that Americans who watch more TV shows about characters who go from rags to riches are more likely to believe in the myth of the American dream. The idea that it doesn't matter where you start out, anyone can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. So to start, let's put it plainly, the American dream does not exist. I guess that's why they call it a dream and not like the American reality. But Americans definitely think it exists. The Brookings Institution conducted an international survey of people's feelings toward economic mobility, and they found that 2/3 of Americans, a higher percentage than in any other country they surveyed, think that people are rewarded for intelligence and skill. Only 19% of Americans said that coming from a wealthy family was very important to getting ahead. A lower percentage than any other country, about 1/3 of Americans, said that it's the government's job to reduce income inequality. Meanwhile, the United States is only competing with the United Kingdom in terms of how difficult it is to improve your economic circumstances. In those countries, 50% of parental earnings advantages are passed on to their sons, which is a common way for economists to measure economic mobility across countries. It means it would take an average of 6 generations for those advantages to disappear. Presumably, that means 6 generations of absolute dumbasses screwing things up, just like 6 generations of cokeheads or NFT investors. Meanwhile, in countries like Canada, Finland, Norway, and Denmark, only 20% of parental earnings advantages pass along to children, meaning that a person born in one of those countries has a much, much better chance of achieving the American dream. The Danish dream, as I like to call it. Ooh, the cinnamon apple Danish dream. Delicious economic mobility. Many other studies using various methodologies have confirmed the fact that the United States is one of the worst, if not the worst, industrialized country in terms of economic mobility. They further find that the United States is unique in how sticky our top and bottom income earners are. To quote from the Brookings Institution, men whose fathers have particularly low earnings are more likely than other men to have low earnings themselves, and men whose fathers are at the top of the earnings distribution are likely to attain that top status themselves. The Brookings Institution particularly points out the stickiness at the bottom. Men born into the poorest fifth of families in the United States in 1958 had a higher likelihood of ending up in the bottom fifth of the earnings distribution than did males similarly positioned in 5 Northern European countries. 42% in the United States compared to 25 to 30% in the other countries. Furthermore, in the United States, only 8% make the rags to riches climb from bottom to top rung in one generation, while 11 to 14% do so in other countries. So the American dream doesn't exist, at least not in America, but Americans by and large still believe it does. Why is that? Well, that's where this new study comes in. The overall conclusion you might not find groundbreaking. We believe in this myth in part because the media we consume repeatedly, consistently sells us this myth. Rags to riches stories have been an essential part of the American mythology since our country's founding, like in the wildly popular Horatio Alger stories from the mid-19th century. Fun fact, Alger's first big hit novel was called Ragged Dick. Ragged Dick. The new Ragged Dick is must-see TV like American Idol, America's Got Talent, and Shark Tank, all wildly popular shows that are predicated on the idea of some poor schlub, completely unknown to us, suddenly being launched to fame and fortune thanks to their talent and work ethic. In this new study, Younji Kim, assistant professor of political science at Vanderbilt University, writes that trends over the last 3 decades suggest that people who watch a lot of television have become more optimistic about the American dream. And while some experts blame biased news media, she suspects that entertainment is actually a key factor. So, to test this hypothesis, she fitted a big box truck with televisions and armchairs and then drove around to farmers markets and other non-political events in my birthplace, the rural and suburban counties of Pennsylvania and South Jersey. She even stopped at Cowtown, South Jersey's rodeo. Yes, South Jersey has a rodeo and it rules, okay? Anyway, she paid people $10 to watch a TV show and then fill out a survey about their beliefs vis-a-vis the American dream. Some people saw an episode of Cesar Millan's dog training show, which, while gross and unscientific, has nothing to do with upward economic mobility or rags to riches. Other people, though, saw an episode of either Shark Tank, America's Got Talent, American Ninja Warrior, and Toy Box, all of which ended the episode with an unknown schlub achieving their dream. While the overall conclusion may not have been a shock, yes, people who watched rags to riches shows were more likely to say they believed in the American dream of rags to riches. What is surprising is the strength of the effect she found. Kim writes, watching a rags to riches program, even just for 5 minutes, makes people approximately 5.5 to 6.8 percentage points more likely to believe in the prospect of upward economic mobility. To put this into context, in the control condition for the lab in the field sample, the partisan gap in belief in the American dream is 10.87 percentage points. In other words, the treatment effect is substantial, more than half the size of the gap between Democrats and Republicans. Okay, I know it's kind of a joke in international circles to say how American Democrats and American Republicans are pretty much interchangeable, but I think we can all agree that the past 8 years or so have demonstrated that we've polarized a bit and there are some distinct differences. So this study was specifically done in places where they could get not just the liberals in the city centers, but Trump voters in rural areas, which, is why she went to Cowtown. It's a lot of fun there, but yeah, that is the first place I remember being sexually harassed at the age of 16 by an octogenarian cowboy who asked me if I had Windex in my pants because he could see himself in them. Charming. Anyway, yeah, watching just 5 minutes of a rags to riches show was enough to shift someone halfway out of their own professed political party. That's a substantial result. Kim ends by acknowledging the ongoing issues that also perpetuate income inequality and lack of upward mobility in the United States. We have a deeply ingrained belief in the Protestant work ethic. There's news media that does fail to accurately present reality to consumers, and politicians who fail to act in the best interests of their non-wealthy constituents. But she points out that sociologists need to take seriously the ill effects of the stories that we're telling each other. There's no way to quickly fix this. You can stop watching those shows, but they're still going to be popular. But just knowing how easily we can be manipulated by these shows might be helpful in negating their effects. We're all manipulated every day by the media we consume, but at least knowing that fact can help make us savvier consumers.